Welcome to the Bookwormers. I'd like to make a toast to all of us and people listening. This is the first time we've had a discussion, and I'm Marcia.
I'm Leslie.
And I'm Eileen.
And we're going to talk about Still Missing, the book Still Missing. Hopefully some of you have read it. If not, maybe you can listen in and get some ideas. And if you'd like to call us, that would be great. Or email us.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we have the computer right here, ready to take any emails that anybody sends in.
So I think the first thing we'd like to start is talking about what the book's about.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just mention, too, that the author is Chevy Stevens, C-H-E-V-Y, and then Stevens, S-T-E-V-E-N-S. And the title, again, is Still Missing. So
great.
And this was her first book, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
which was pretty amazing for a first book, I thought.
I thought it was pretty great, too.
Yeah.
So can we talk about a little bit about what it's about? And,
You know, it's so funny because as I was getting ready to come tonight, my son kept asking me, what's this book about? What is this book about? And I said, you know, it's adult content. I can't tell you.
yeah.
But essentially, in a short synopsis, it's really about this young woman who's 32 years old, who's a realtor, and she's doing an open house alone, and it's on a Sunday. I believe it was in the afternoon, and it was close to the end of the open house. She was about ready to close up and head out to meet her boyfriend for dinner, and some gentleman comes up and says, "Oh, you're closing up?" And she said, "Yeah." And she thought about sending him away, saying, "I'm closing up," but she decides to let him in and show him the house, and then he abducts her, and then it goes into this long story about her abduction and the things that she goes through, and it's haunting. It's a really haunting story. It's
He had a cabin for her up in the woods, nowhere, out in the middle of nowhere. And the cabin was, what was it? It was totally secluded, but inside. How do you describe?
Well, no windows. There was no windows.
Like I wouldn't even call it they called it a cabin, but it was almost like it was a shell, like an old bombshell kind of thing that you couldn't get. She couldn't see daylight. She didn't see daylight for a long time.
Yeah, that's right. She would see it like maybe through cracks in the bathroom or something, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But he had it totally so there weren't any knives around. There wasn't anything that she could harm herself with or harm him with
or escape with.
Yeah.
So everything was like locked or secured, or like I'm reading that the stools on the island or the kitchen table were secured to the floor.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
it was a. Now in the book, at the very beginning, you realize that she's alive because she's talking to a psychiatrist.
Right. And so
on
she's
her
looking
terms.
back.
She's looking back, and it's on her terms that she's going to talk to the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And you also know that reporters have been trying to bother her and everything, but she takes you back to the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And you have to get through the whole book almost.
Yeah.
Or maybe 3/4, would you say, before she's out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the last quarter is what's happening. But it's afterwards, or maybe a little more. But I felt, well, did you enjoy the book?
Yeah, I did. I haven't really found a good book I like. I've got stacks and stacks of books next to my bed that I pick up, I read a chapter and put down. I pick up another one, read a chapter and put down. But when I picked this one up, I kept reading.
Really?
And I kept reading until I finished it.
Yeah.
It took me 3 nights to read it. So it was a good choice. Leslie came up with
picked it.
We'll
give Leslie the credit.
I was haunted by it when I first read it.
I was too. I kept saying, if I was not reading it for this program, would I have read the first chapter and said, this is too gory for me, or would I have gotten so involved in it, which I did get so involved in it, that you really wanted to know what happened to her.
Right.
And you did want to know the story, but it was on a...
Yeah. It wasn't really gory, though, right?
You don't think so?
Gory? Was it gory?
I don't know if the gory is the right word, but traumatizing.
Violent? It was violent.
Yeah.
Not really even violent.
Well,
yeah.
Just so
traumatizing.
mentally disturbing.
Yeah.
The things that he did to her.
Yeah.
Or made her do.
Yeah.
It was more her made her do. And then after a while, she started to realize how to manipulate him in some ways.
Yes, she did.
Yep.
Even though she didn't like manipulating him.
Mm-hmm. She didn't like him. She hated him.
No, and what'd she call him?
The freak.
The freak.
The freak.
Yeah.
You never even knew his name. Well, in the beginning, you knew his name as David.
David.
Oh, yeah?
And
but that was
but
his real
she
name.
just throughout the entire book called him the freak.
Yeah.
And then at the end, of course, you learned what his real name was, and it wasn't David. But interesting to note is this whole book wasn't even in chapters. It was in sessions, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That's true.
It was the sessions she had with her psychiatrist and talking about her whole ordeal.
Yeah.
So you were always going back and forth, learning about some parts of what she went through her psychiatrist, and then it would go back to the present where she was like living it.
Right.
So it was that back and forth, that toggling.
Yeah.
It was riveting. It really was.
Yeah.
It was. I agree with that.
But,
completely.
you always knew that she'd lived through it, which was good, I think, right?
Did you always
sure.
know that she'd get through?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because she was talking
To the
about
psychiatrist.
it. She was talking about the whole thing to
Oh,
the
yeah.
psychiatrist. So you knew she'd lived through the whole ordeal.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. What
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
And what about the parts where she starts to like him in some ways?
Yeah, she did say that.
But when she started to like him, I thought, most human beings, in my book, there's something about that you probably could like.
Yeah, well, I guess when you're alone, for so long, nothing else to do.
That's right, and and if you can see anything that you can like about somebody,
I mean, he did rape her.
Yeah.
Almost every night.
That's right.
Right.
Until she got pregnant.
Right.
Yeah.
And that
then
we
he
didn't
beat her,
talk.
too.
Yeah, he beat her and did. She was only allowed to go to the bathroom certain times, and you saw how that traumatized her afterwards. That she had gotten so conditioned for so many things, and how she just couldn't go.
Right. Right.
Because it wasn't on time.
Yeah.
So
Even after she left there.
That's right.
She waited to certain times of the day to go to the bathroom. Yeah. So
And,
that was.
so.
Well, maybe we should talk about how he did treat her so that we can talk about how she possibly could even like him.
Okay.
Because
Good point.
she did rape him regularly.
He raped her.
He raped her, regularly. And he beat her if she didn't follow, his rules, and he would punish her. I mean, do you remember the time when he was just, punching her in the stomach?
Yes.
Like literally beating her up.
Yeah.
He was, beating her up.
And she was knocked out cold for a few days.
For a few
right.
days,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if she went to the bathroom at the wrong time, she'd get in trouble, and then it got to the point where she wouldn't go to the bathroom in the toilet. She would sneak and go in.
And when she was pregnant, I can't imagine being pregnant and not being allowed to go to the
I
bathroom.
know.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
She'd go in the tub and just to the drain.
So
Right.
that he
So
would
he would
not
know.
know.
Yeah.
And that's when he would go out. I mean, he was there most of the time unless he went somewhere.
Yeah. And then with the nightly rituals with the bath, I mean,
And the shaving of
reading
the...
that- just the thought of him rubbing her down with the oil
Oils
or the
and-
lotion.
yeah.
I know. Yeah.
Disgusting.
That's
I just wanted
creepy.
to kill him.
Yeah.
But think what... And then his mother finally, I mean,
Yep,
she
came
was,
out.
She was trying to figure him out, too. And
Yeah.
that came out.
Yep.
He didn't open up for a long time.
Yeah. That was bizarre.
That his
That was
mother used to do the same thing to him, right? Or was that the way it was?
Yeah. He used... Yeah. That's
Yeah. So that's
bizarre.
why he turned
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That was quite something.
Yep.
Yeah, he had a bizarre relationship with his mother.
Yep.
It was almost like boyfriend, girlfend, husband, wife,
Yeah.
almost. Because
Yep.
the husband was gone a lot on sales trips.
Yep. Yep.
It was a bizarre relationship. So she did begin to like certain things about him, and I remember her recalling in the book that how if someone ever knew that there were certain things I liked about him, what would they think about
Right.
me?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
she said, at times he could be gentle, and he could be tender.
That's true. He talked. He acted like when she was pregnant, and she had the baby. Like we, he started to use the word we. We're going to do. We're going to do that. It sounded like he was so out of reality that he didn't even realize that he was as bad as he was. Yeah, at least I don't think that it was true.
So In your view, both of you, do you think he was attractive? The description of him initially?
Well, initially she described a very handsome, good-looking guy.
That's what I thought,
But then
too.
she said he all of a sudden changed. Now, I don't know why that was true, but that was brought out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably was.
Blonde hair and blue eyes. And
Yeah.
I got the impression he was tall. Did they say that? I don't remember, but...
No, isn't
And
that funny?
she said he had a lean figure.
Yeah, that I remember. I never took him as real tall.
I don't know.
What did you do? What did you visualize?
I really didn't remember his
I
height.
think he was tall.
Yeah.
She was barely over 5 feet, she was saying. With dark hair.
What about her mother's relationship with her and the mother's sister? I mean, that was another very
Yeah. Do you want to describe that for everybody?
I guess it was a very competitive relationship.
Yeah.
The mother, I think her name was Lorraine. Mm-hmm. But Lorraine they always said mom in the book.
Yeah.
But
Right.
her name was Lorraine and her sister was Val. And they had a very, very competitive relationship growing up. Now, I think their mother favored Val.
Yeah.
Was she more beautiful or something? Didn't it say that?
No,
She was older.
She was older. Actually, if I remember correctly, it was she wasn't the most beautiful one.
Or was it Lorraine? Annie is the girl that was
Right.
abducted. Was it
No.
Annie's mother?
Oh, it was
They're both-
Annie's mother. No, Annie's mother's sister,
Which is Val.
which is Val. But it was the mother who was beautiful, supposedly. Mm-hmm. But it was there was very competition, who was doing the best and who was doing all this between these two girls.
Between their daughters, which Annie, the one that got abducted, and her cousin,
Yeah.
which was, I think, Tamara,
Yeah.
Val's daughter. And so it was always competitive with Annie's mom and her sister, Val, on what their children were doing.
Yep.
And they were both in real estate. So,
Right.
well, Annie's doing this, and they would always try to one-up each other.
Right.
So it was always that competition.
So do we want to tell everybody what happened at the end?
I think so. I think if we're going to have, hopefully somebody's read it,
Yeah.
if they're listening. If they haven't, I'll have to say that there kept being twists in the story right along. Mm-hmm. And the twist also was this poor boyfriend. I felt sorry for the boyfriend.
Yeah.
Annie's boyfriend.
Yes,
Yeah.
because Annie's boyfriend sounded like the two of them had a great relationship. Mm-hmm. And of course the freak said the boyfriend had a new girlfriend and everything else, and they had sold Annie's house, and she wasn't sure whether to believe him or not to believe him. And then when he came, the poor boyfriend, no matter what he did, she was afraid, or she was so traumatized through this whole thing that she just couldn't respond.
Right. And the whole time she was gone for over a year, they were trying to find her. The boyfriend was leading all these,
Right.
things to find her and
Rescue
everything.
missions and the flyers.
Yeah,
and
and he was really trying to find her. And then when she gets back, she kind of shuts the door in his face. So I could imagine what he felt like. Like, oh.
But he also was very sympathetic still.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
He was. And she knew that.
And
she kept saying
Yep.
to herself, he's so nice.
Yeah.
He's always good or nice to me. But she just couldn't...
Get back into a relationship.
Yeah.
But, during the time that she was abducted, and initially when this David, the freak, abducted her, she just didn't know why. Why are you doing this? She thought initially he was doing it for money, and then for sex.
That's right.
And
your mind was going.
yeah, like, why is he doing this? Why her?
Yeah.
And he takes her in the back of the van and I think covers her with a gray blanket or
Look at
something,
something
and
and injects
puts a
her.
needle in her.
Yeah.
Injects her with something to knock her out. And so in the beginning, she just can't understand why he's abducted her. What can she do? And she just kept trying to talk to him about it, how she could get herself out of there. And then in all of her attempts in doing that, he would get so angry that he
Right.
would beat her.
That's
and
right.
punish her. And so she learned through, like you said, her manipulation of him, getting to know him, that she had to back off that if she wanted to stop being beaten.
Right.
And
then,
even with the sexual raping, she figured out, first she wasn't responding at all.
Yeah.
And then she tried to come on to him, and that really infuriated him.
Yeah.
And so she finally...
She was some slut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she hated every minute of it, but she finally figured out where she could stop the beatings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that. And then the cop. First, I guess we've gone through kind of the traumatized part.
Well, can we talk about the baby, maybe?
Oh, we didn't do that.
Gotta talk
How do we
about the
forget?
baby.
He wants a baby. The freak.
Yeah.
He wants her to have a baby, and she does have a baby.
Okay, we've got a question from a viewer. Do you want me to read
Sure.
it?
Yeah.
Who do you all think was the most interesting character, and do you think it would make for a good movie?
I think it would make for a great movie.
I think it
would.
would be too. And who was what was the question? The great.
Who is the best character?
You know what's a really interesting character really is the mother. And
Yeah.
no, they don't know why yet, but
Yeah.
the mother is probably...
But the best
Yeah.
character?
I don't know if
She
she's
is
the
a
best,
character.
but
I don't know.
Screwed up. That's for sure.
She's an interesting character.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
wait till they find out the culmination of
the-
the end of the book, and they'll know why
She
I'm
was,
saying
but-
that.
I don't know who I'd say the best character in that book.
I mean, I don't know. You got to give it to Annie. I mean,
Yeah,
really.
right,
I mean, she just
right.
she
did
persevered through so much.
Right.
No,
She
I think
persevered
you're
through
right.
so much.
No.
It's unbelievable. And
I know.
even just getting through that ordeal of being raped, having a baby, what she goes through, the ordeal of the baby coming home, trying to simulate back into real normal life,
Right.
And she couldn't.
which she couldn't because
It
her
was-
life was gone as she knew it.
Right.
She was a new person.
Yep.
And the other
Yep.
thing is, we started
This would be
to
a great
talk.
movie.
I know, I think so.
I can't believe it hasn't been made into a
I
movie,
know.
really.
Well, maybe it will be.
You know? Thank you for your question. That was great.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
The baby. So we all know she had a baby, but there were certain things she couldn't do with the baby.
Well, first of all, let's talk about when she was pregnant, how he was getting a little annoyed about the changes in her body.
Yes.
In the beginning, he didn't like it because,
Yeah.
of course, he was, raping her every night, and
Yeah.
he couldn't do that as much when she was pregnant, or didn't feel inclined to. Maybe.
Yeah, I
or-
think he felt, he was bound and determined to have her have a baby.
Yeah.
I know.
In fact,
Then,
and you know what we didn't bring up was Christina. And Christina was her friend.
best
Her best
friend,
friend,
yeah.
Because he was talking about, and we didn't bring this up either, throughout the book, he was talking all about Christina, her boyfriend. He knew all about her.
Yeah.
And that's
freaky.
very strange. You know,
Yeah.
it's one thing to take somebody, but Christina's got the big real estate job.
Yeah.
Was feeding into her.
But he also knew a lot about Annie and her life.
Yeah, he knew all about her.
And she couldn't figure that out either.
Right.
He had a picture. Remember
Yeah.
the picture?
Yeah, the picture.
And
So the thought of her being pregnant with this baby sickened her.
that's
Sickened
right.
her?
To begin
In the
with.
beginning.
At the very
In the
beginning.
beginning.
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
I don't remember
yeah.
that.
Oh, because it was
His baby.
Yeah.
his baby.
Okay.
But of course,
But then she began
Man.
to love the fact that it was growing her, and then she would
Oh,
feel
yeah,
the
yeah,
baby,
yeah.
and
she was very.
she began to love the baby, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
had something to hope for and
Right.
to look forward to, and
Of course.
then he
you know.
began to get accustomed to it, and he would rub her belly, and
no,
maybe those are the tender things that she began to like about him, perhaps.
No, I think it was.
Yeah, they used to read together.
Yes, that was
Those
it.
literary
Yes,
moments.
yeah.
Those
And-
used to
Yeah.
be moments of some sort of comfort to her. They would
Right.
have.
'Cause she didn't have a TV.
No.
So can you imagine?
Oh, a one room, never to know whether you're ever going to see
No
light again.
windows.
And then,
Oh, my God.
And then, while she was still pregnant, he goes out. Remember, he brings her outside with the deer.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
had shot a deer, and he made her. Here she is, 9 months pregnant, having to go out in the cold and the snow, and she looked around a little bit, but she had to sit there and hold these legs of the deer.
Yeah.
Well, he butchered it. Yeah.
And, I mean...
Yep. And then how about the duck?
The duck.
You don't remember the duck?
Yeah, I remember the duck when the baby was born. She went out and he finally let her outside a little bit, and she
was watching a duck, feeding the duck or something. Yeah. It would come up to her.
That's right.
But she tried not to show too much interest in it because she knew that he would kill the duck.
Right.
Which he did.
Which he did. Yeah. She
and then forced her to eat it.
Yes, he did.
Oh, it was disgusting. Chew it.
So he is a freak.
Annie, chew it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, even after they had the baby, he was really kind of not always nice to the baby either.
No, he was so jealous of the baby.
Yeah, well, and he was so rigid with the baby, just like he was with her, very rigid. And
do you remember that one night? It was the baby was really crying and the baby was hungry, and she couldn't just feed it when she wanted to. It was all up to him. And she was laying in bed next to the freak, and she had to lean over because the baby's little basket or bed was next to him. She had to lean over, lean her breast down, so that and she tried to pick the baby up a little bit to lean her up so that the baby could nurse and get fed. And she had to quietly lay back down in bed so he didn't know that she was feeding the baby.
Yeah.
But so she really did love the baby, her daughter.
Oh, she loved her daughter. She adored her daughter.
And then he wouldn't let her name it. Name the baby. Name her daughter.
She did name it, but
but he named it Juliet.
Yes.
He said one day, he says, her name is Juliet, which was his mother's name.
Right.
Yeah.
But that wasn't, and she said there was expletives in the book. And she's like, there's no effing way my daughter's name is going to be Juliet. And she had already picked out a name for her daughter, but you don't know what it was throughout the entire book until the end.
To the end. And then the daughter becomes very sick, and she begs him to take him to the doctor. And he doesn't. He doesn't, and the baby dies.
Right.
Well, he's claiming that she's just pampering the baby.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the baby was only, a month old or something?
Yeah.
She wasn't even
very old.
Yeah.
That was so heartbreaking. Oh,
and
my
then
God. I just wanted to kill him.
He took the baby, and that's how the title is, Still Missing.
Oh, really? You think it was about the baby?
Yeah, they never found the baby.
I thought it was about her. I thought it was because she's kind of, after she was taken...
See, now that isn't the way. I thought because the baby was never found.
Oh. No, when I was reading I take it as, I
did
too.
You? Okay,
yeah.
I could be wrong.
Because she said that she was driving one day after she got home, and there was a sign about her. It was Annie O'Sullivan, the luck of the Irish was her slogan for real estate. But there was a sign about her missing, a local realtor
That's right.
abducted.
Yes.
And she said the sign really should say local realtor still missing.
Right.
Because she just wasn't herself anymore.
And, I think the program's only going to go on for another couple of minutes, so I think we better talk about the ending.
The ending, yeah.
All right.
On how the ending came, and she finds out that her mother, and we didn't talk too much about her mother's relationship, except the mother was kind of wacky, and she tried to get close to her mother, was saying, well, we didn't talk about the sister. So anyway, the ending of the story, you find out the mother has arranged this whole thing for money, or hoping to make money on a story, and.
Meaning the publicity behind
that's correct.
Sensationalized
story. But she keeps saying, but I didn't expect anything to happen to you.
Right.
At all.
That's really great finding out
but
your mother's behind
the mother never felt like, oh, look what I did.
Yeah.
Before we get cut off, do we want to talk about next month's
think so. I think what we'd love to do is to continue to have more books. And if anybody has any ideas for the future of books they would like to have discussed, or even if they'd like to come in for a discussion with us, that would be, there's lots of room, and that would be great. The more, it would be interesting to have more people.
Do we want to maybe read The Shack for next time?
I think we should.
Yeah.
I think that's that's an interesting book. So I think The Shack will be our next book. But please,
Who's the author on that one? Do we know?
Oh, I forget his name.
I forget too.
Okay, The Shack.
Okay. The Shack.
You can look it up online.
You can look it up online. I'm sure the library probably has it too.
So this was kind of a brief synopsis or discussion of the story, but you really have to read it to get all of the great details because it's, we only just touched upon it, but to read this book, it's so riveting and it's
very
good.
haunting
for Marcia and I. I mean,
it was.
The first time I read it.
I kept thinking.
For like a week and a half or so, I was so off. I said to my husband, I'm like, I'm so off by this book. And he said, don't read stuff like that. But it's very good. It's an excellent book, I think.
Well, it makes you think.
Yeah, it does.
And I think The Shack will make us all think, too.
Yeah.
So I think that will be fun. And hopefully people that are listening or will be able to find The Shack, join us, and come back with some questions or answers that you have. We'd like to have your input, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It'd be great to have people calling in and more emails. Good emails tonight.
And even though the show's live tonight, you're going to be airing it.
Right.
We'll be airing it some more.
Throughout the month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when will we do our next book club?
Probably in a month.
Probably maybe a month to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
good.
Okay.
Well, thank everyone for watching. We really appreciate it, and we hope you take out this book. It's Still Missing by Chevy Stevens. This copy is from the Wethersfield Public Library, which will be returning, so there's at least one copy. So,
and I'm sure the other libraries,
absolutely.
you can get another copy. If you
and I looked
choose
online; it's only $9.99 paperback.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Hardcover is $20,
Nice.
but for $10, you can have the book yourself. So
It's good.
Are we supposed to be talking?